to the Padres Postgame Show on the Padres Radio Network. Coming up, we'll deliver a full recap of today's game, including highlights from the biggest moments. We'll take a trip down to the manager's office to hear from Mike Shildt. Plus, we'll bring you scores from around Major League Baseball. The Padres Postgame Show starts now on the Padres Radio Network.
Welcome into our post-game show here on the Padres Radio Network. A tough one on this Thursday in St. Louis for the Padres as they fall to the St. Louis Cardinals in this series finale by a final score of 4-1. Padres do win the first two games of this series, but they lose yesterday. They lose today. Padres and Cardinals split this four-game set. Padres are now 76-60 on the year. Cardinals improve back to 500 at 67-67. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. We have a lot to do in our post-game coverage. We'll have all the radio highlights for you. Recap this game from start to finish. We'll go back to St. Louis, hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, and I will take you up until probably just around 3 p.m. That's when today's edition of Gwynn and Chris Ello, Matt Scraby will come your way for the rest of the afternoon. And, of course, into the 6 p.m. hour with the Scraby Show. So let's talk about this game. Let's start with this ball game, the last 2 days in particular, the issues today, and then go a little bit more bigger picture about this series and the last couple of weeks for the Padres. There were really two main areas of concern, two main areas of issue in this game for the Padres. Number one, runners in scoring position, again, a big issue for a second straight day. Now, the Padres didn't have a ton of opportunities in this game. They only had 5 at-bats with runners in scoring position, but the Padres went 0 for 5 in those 5 at-bats with runners in scoring position. And you look at the last 2 games of this series, Padres went a combined 1 for 15 with runners in scoring position. We talked about it plenty last night. In fact, it was one of my keys to today's game, runners in scoring position, a rarity last night where the Padres went 1 for 10. They missed opportunities early, late, and it came back to bite them. And today it sort of happened again. Again, not as many opportunities, but when the Padres had chances, they could not find ways to cash in. You look at the offense as a whole, really in the first, or I should say the last 2 games of this series. The Padres, in the first inning yesterday, scored 2 runs. They got the RBI single from Machado and then the double steal that scored Cronenworth. From that moment on, from the first inning on, in the last 2 games of this series, the Padres have scored 2 runs to finish this series from the second inning on, going back to yesterday. So that's a span of 17 innings. They scored 2 runs to finish this series in the final 17 innings of the series, and both the runs came on solo home runs. The home run yesterday from Higashioka to tie the game, and the home run from Merrill in the 5th inning to make it a 2-1 game today, and that was the only run the Padres would score. So whatever way you want to slice it, if you want to look back at the last 17 innings, you want to look at runners in scoring position, yesterday and today, Padres just didn't have a lot going offensively last 2 games of this series, and especially today. I mean, you can pretty quickly count the base traffic the Padres had. They had a 1-out double from Higashioka in the 3rd. They had a 1-out double from Cronenworth in the 4th. They had the solo home run from Merrill in the 5th inning. They had a couple of walks in the 7th inning. That was it. That was all the base traffic they had in this game. They only left on 4 through 9 innings. So, again, offensively really quiet today, and certainly not cashing in when the Padres had runners in scoring position. That was a major issue today. The second area of issue today was just really one moment. And look, when you're playing a close game, and especially this time of year where these games are so important, every little mistake can be really critical. And you go to the 3rd inning. Now, Michael King did not appear to have his best stuff today. He walked 4. It was not the sharpest we've seen Michael King at all, and he's been so good this year. But today, he was not as sharp as we've seen. I think that is pretty obvious. But you talk about the 3rd inning, he issues a leadoff walk. At this point, it's a 0-0 game. And then a sharply hit ground ball to Tyler Wade at shortstop. And look, it was hit hard, But I'm sure Tyler will tell you that's a play he probably should make, and he's got to knock down at least. It goes by him. It was an error on Wade. If he fields it cleanly, that's a tailor-made double play ball, and there's 2 outs, nobody on. Instead, it was runners on second and third, and the Cardinals end up scoring 2 unearned runs against King in that inning. So the error from Wade, that ended up being a really, really important moment in this game. And again, it just shows you that, hey, when you play close games, when you're trying to come back in games a lot like the Padres have done in the second half, the margin for error can be really slim. So that was a pretty critical moment in the third. So you look at those two things. The one moment with Wade, the defense, King not being super sharp, and also obviously the issues with runners in scoring position and just offensively as a whole today. So that's sort of the look at the last 2 games of this series. Now, the big picture of this series and where the Padres are. Look, on one hand, it did feel like the Padres had a great opportunity to win this series. They won the first 2 games. They lost the last 2. And you felt like once they won the first 2, hey, you win one of the next 2, take 3 out of 4 against a not great St. Louis team at all. And amazingly today, the smallest crowd in the history of Busch Stadium 3 in St. Louis. We'll get to that a little bit later, the attendance number. But, sort of a not great crowds in St. Louis. They're well out of it, and they're kind of playing out the schedule here. You felt like, okay, really good opportunity with Musgrove on the mound yesterday, King on the mound today to win this series, and the Padres couldn't do it. They end up splitting this 4-game series. Is it the end of the world? No, absolutely not. Is it a tad disappointing? I think that's fair because you felt like this was a really winnable series, especially after you won the first 2. And we'll zoom out a little bit farther here. Look, last 14 games, Padres are now 7-7. They are not as hot as they were earlier in the second half. Again, the other side of it, it's not the end of the world. They've had a terrific second half. They are now 26-11 since the All-Star break. You're not going to hear me today get super crazy over splitting a series with the Mets and then splitting a series with the Cardinals. I'm just not with how well they've played. With that said, again, we're going to play both sides here. With that said, hey, when you're in a race against the Diamondbacks for wild card seeding and you're in striking distance as far as the division, every game, every series matters this time of year. So we'll see if the Padres can bounce back after a frustrating couple of days in St. Louis. They go to Tampa Bay, start of a 3-game series tomorrow, and we go from there as the Padres drop this one 4-1 at Busch Stadium today. When we come back, all the radio highlights coming your way. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt as the Padres drop this series finale in St. Louis. Our post-game coverage continues after this on the Padres Radio Network. Our post-game show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Final score today, Cardinals 4 and the Padres 1 as the Padres split this 4-game set in St. Louis. They are on to Tampa Bay, start of a 3-game series tomorrow against the Rays before the Padres return home to take on the Tigers on Labor Day. So a lot to discuss on our post-game coverage. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt coming up in just a few minutes, so stay tuned for that. Let's recap this one from start to finish, how it went down in the Lou.
What moments had the biggest impact on today's game? We'll paint you a picture with our game recap on the Padres Radio Network.
Let's begin with Padres starter Michael King. He was in and out of trouble early. Cardinals stranded 2 runners on base in each of the first 2 innings. We still had a scoreless game heading to the bottom half of the third. King issued a leadoff walk. Then Nolan Arenado hit a sharp ground ball to shortstop. Tyler Wade couldn't handle it. Would have been a tailor-made double play, but instead an error on Wade, and the ball rolled into left center. That put runners on second and third base with nobody out. Luken Baker then brought a run home with a ground out. Cardinals took a 1-0 lead. There was still a runner in scoring position for Paul Goldschmidt.
From King is hit in the air deep down the left field line. Profar not going to get there. That's a fair ball. It'll run up against the wall. Arenado comes in to score an unearned run. RBI double Paul Goldschmidt. And now 2-0 St. Louis.
Goldschmidt had a really nice series, a 2-0 Cardinals lead. Let's talk about Cardinals starter Sonny Gray. He retired the first 7 batters he faced. Padres had a 1-out double in the third. They did not score. Another in the 4th inning, but they did not score again. Gray took the mound for the top of the 5th inning. Padres still led 2-0, or excuse me, I should say Padres still trailed 2-0. Jackson Merrill led off the 5th inning for San Diego.
Jackson Merrill leads off, swings to the first pitch, sends it in the air to deep center field. Scott is back. This one gonna go onto the grass in the batter's eye for Jackson Merrill. 20th of the year for the rookie, and the Padres are on the board. It's 2-1.
Another very nice moment for the rookie. 20 home runs in his rookie campaign for Jackson Merrill, and it gave the Padres a little bit of momentum. It was now a 2-1 game, but that would be all Gray allowed in 6 innings of work today. Yuki Matsui stayed on for the bottom half of the 6th inning after he did a great job getting out of a big-time situation in the 5th. He got 2 outs in relief of Michael King to end the 5th inning. Matsui stranding the bases loaded in that frame. He then came back out for the 6th inning. He got the first out, but then it was Mason Wynn.
1-1 launched in the air down the left field line. If it's fair, it's gone, and it is. A home run for Mason Wynn. Second hit of the afternoon for the Cardinals shortstop, and they have re-extended the lead. It's now 3-1.
So a 3-1 Cardinals lead. Then the question became, could the Padres mount another comeback? Cardinals reliever Ryan Fernandez worked around a couple of walks in a scoreless 7th inning. Matthew Liberatore pitched a 1-2-3 8th inning. Cardinals then got insurance against Adrian Morejon in the bottom half of the 8th inning. Lars Nootbaar led off with a triple, a ball that should have probably been caught by David Peralta in deep right field. Ivan Herrera then had an RBI single. Cardinals had a 4-1 lead. We went to the top of the 9th inning. Cardinals up 4-1. They went to their closer, Ryan Helsley, and Helsley put together a pretty quick and easy 1-2-3 9th inning. Cronenworth, Machado, and Solano went down in order, and that was that here today. Final score, Cardinals 4 and the Padres 1. Padres had just 1 run on 3 hits, 2 errors in this game like we described. The error on Wade was certainly a crucial one in this ball game. For the Cardinals, 4 runs, 10 hits, no errors. Padres improved to, or I should say, Padres dropped to 76-60 on the year. Cardinals back to 500 at 67-67. Padres win the first 2 games of this 4-game set, but a couple of disappointing days in St. Louis. They lose yesterday on the Nolan Arenado walk-off single 4-3, and then they lose here today by a final score of 4-1, and the Padres and Cardinals split this 4-game set. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll also have our daily awards. If you want to get a phone call in, phone number is always 833-288-0973. Again, 833-288-0973. If you want to chime in, let me know what you thought about this game, what you thought about this series. And again, today's edition of Gwynn and Chris Ello, Matt Scraby, they will come your way towards the very top of the hour. Final score, Cardinals 4, Padres 1. More post-game after this. Our post-game show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. Final score today, Cardinals 4 and the Padres 1 as the Padres split this 4-game series in St. Louis. It is on to Tampa Bay. Padres will play 3 more in Tampa tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, and then come back home to begin a homestand on Labor Day on Monday at Petco Park. We've already gone through the radio highlights. You heard plenty of my thoughts in the opening segment. I did want to add a couple of things here before we hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. And it's one of those days I was actually looking through my keys to the game and our what to watch for segment, my notes during the break, because it kind of felt like a lot of them were really relevant in this game. So let's just quickly go through them. My first key in this game today, pregame, was be good against Goldschmidt. Well, Goldschmidt had another extra base hit and RBI in this game. How about this? Paul Goldschmidt in this 4-game series had 8 hits and 5 RBIs with a home run. He's not had a great year, but man, he had a good series against the Padres. My second key was an awesome rise. He had 4 hits last night. Unfortunately, Luis 0 for 4 today. My third key was Manny shining on a sunny day in St. Louis. I was talking about Sonny Gray, some of the great career numbers that Manny had against Gray. Well, Manny was 0 for 4 in this game. Runners in scoring position. I told you the Padres went 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position last night. That would be a big key today. Well, They went 0 for 5 today. And then finally, Mason Wynn. Told you before the game he had 7 hits in the first 3 games of this series, and Wynn had 2 more hits and a home run in today's game. So one of those days where a lot of what we talked about pregame ended up being really relevant in the game. Unfortunately, not in the best way for the Padres, really. But, hey, got to tip your cap to Goldschmidt and Wynn. I mean, they were both really, really good in this series. The rookie Wynn, the veteran Goldschmidt. So they created a lot of problems for the Padres throughout this series as the Padres fall in the series finale 4-1. Let's go back to Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Here's some post-game reaction.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
Like, these ones don't happen very often. 3 hits. Gray looked really good. What was your assessment of?
Yeah, these don't have. I mean, those guys threw the ball pretty well. Overall, I just love the way our guys went about this whole series. Grit squad on display. You don't have to win to have heart. Doing a consolation prize. These guys, they batted their tails off, man. These guys posted and gave us everything they had every day, and tough environment a little bit, no excuses, but took some good at bats against Gray. Jackson took a swing on him, had some opportunities, just couldn't cash in.
Well, I'm assuming, even though you normalize and you guys have done a great job at that, the elements are a bit of the reason that you are pleased with.
Yeah, I just can't discount it. I mean, again, we normalize regardless of circumstance, but also tip of the hat, these were extenuating circumstances. It was, the conditions were rough, and our guys, man, not one complaint. Effort level there, fight, desire, heart, just came out on the short end, but it's got to be appreciated, at least from my seat, the level of commitment these guys have.
How do you assess what King was able to do today under those conditions?
Yeah, I mean, Michael couldn't control as many counts as he probably would have liked. Wasn't able to, if he got ahead, he got behind. But stuff looked good. Made some pitches. They scratched early for 2 runs, and he did it. They had a lot of tough at bats, and they ran a pitch count up.
I know you guys look at a lot of different markers with him, but he's right over 150 innings this time of year. Like, what are you guys seeing from him in terms of how he compared to early in the season?
I see a guy looking like he has all year.
You kind of answered the question in regards to this series, but just in terms of the 14 and 14 that you played right now, where do you think your guys are, specifically your pitching staff, and how they've kind of managed to withstand all that?
Oh, what?
The grind of 14 and 14 and the 4 more.
I think everybody's doing it, but I'll answer your question. Pitching staff, guys take the ball every 5 days. They're conditioned for it. By the way, a lot of love for our guys and how they take care of themselves. Our strength and conditioning guys do a really, really good job with this group. And Jay and Rio do a phenomenal job, but our players are the ones that have to put the work in and ready for these kind of stretches. What I love about this stretch is this group is embracing it and going after it. The pitchers and starters take the ball every 5 days, so they've been getting after it too. But they do have a 4-day break. The relievers have been carrying the mail for sure, but we've been passing the ball around there. Again, the guys that they all deserve, credit for in the 14 days, but those guys going out there posting every day, playing 9 innings, running the bases and doing all those things every day that are the ones that they're all getting after it, but those everyday guys carrying out much pail pretty darn well.
The back-to-back walks, there were quite a few pitches there. Is that a part also of what you looked at in the last few innings and said, these guys are battling? Merrill and Burl.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. If you're, everybody sees the game in different lens, right? So I've got my lens. That's all I can really refer to but yeah, that's exactly what I would see. You guys are deep counts, deep at bats, bat on their tail off. Again, effort level there. A couple walks. Peralta's bat was epic. Jackson's bat was great. The bats were good. We just weren't able to get the big swing.
Do you have any clarity on the next step for you, Darvish? Whether it be rehab, where it might be?
He's going to, I don't think this is a state secret. He's going to Arizona. He flew today, and he's going to pitch in a simulated, controlled game for 4 innings.
Kim, did he play catch again today, or is he down?
Kim went with him. He's also in Arizona going through his program with Toddy, and he's going to start to get some some good BP and maybe some live bats, and then we'll progress his throwing.
Might those guys face you?
I don't think so. Or Darvish. I couldn't resist. Yeah.
It's completely
Little levity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, that was Padres manager Mike Shildt after today's game. Padres fall 4-1 in St. Louis. A couple of notes there just at the end. We learned there that Yu Darvish is going to go to Arizona pitching, basically what sounds like a simulated game, and Ha-Seong Kim also working out in Arizona. We know that Fernando Tatis Jr. was already in Arizona this week and taking it back. So, again, we talked about it pregame. This is off today's game, but very important in the big picture for the Padres right now. It sounds like these guys are getting close. Darvish and Fernando and Kim, to getting those three back. It sounds like it's getting close. So we're getting, I would say in the last week or two, very positive news on those guys. Fernando and Darvish, obviously very, very important to this team alongside Kim. So updates there from Mike Shildt. So very good to hear there. Some more positive updates on Fernando, on Darvish, and on Kim as well. Couple of things here just based on what Mike Shildt said. Look, again, there are really two sides of this series, right? And I talked about it in the opening segment where the Padres win the first two games. You feel like it's a really good opportunity to take at least 3 out of 4 in St. Louis. You drop the last two. Yeah, it's not what you wanted. And it's a disappointing couple of days offensively. Not a whole lot going right the last 2 days. 7-7 in their last 14 games. The team as a whole has cooled down since just the unbelievable start to the second half. You zoom out a little bit farther, it's a 26-11 record since the All-Star break, right? So, look, the other part of it, too, which I really didn't address in the opening segment, look, they are in a stretch of 18 games in 18 days. Today was game number 14. They've got 4 more in this stretch, 3 in Tampa Bay and one in San Diego against the Tigers. You know, the conditions in St. Louis, it was hot, it was humid, it seemed maybe at times to affect, some of the pitchers and the grips. And, it was tough conditions. So, you walk away from it getting a split. Again, you would have loved to have taken 3 of 4 after you won the first 2. But considering the conditions, considering this rough part of the schedule they're in just as far as games in amount of days, I think you take the split, you move on to Tampa Bay. Hopefully you win a series there and you keep things moving. Obviously, this time of year, every game is really important. It is that time of year. We're nearly in September, but I think you zoom out a little bit. You consider a number of the different factors. If you're the Padres right now, for as well as things have gone in the second half, to me, you split. All right, not the end of the world. You move on to Tampa Bay. You try to win a series inside. No humidity inside the Trop. All right, we'll step aside. When we come back, we'll get into our daily awards. If you want to get a phone call in, 833-288-0973. Again, 833-288-0973. Phone number to call if you want to chime in. Let me know what you thought about this game or this series. Full look at the out-of-town scoreboard coming as well. Final score today, Cardinals 4 and the Padres 1 on the Padres Radio Network. Our post-game show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Final score here today, Cardinals 4 and the Padres 1. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios on the Padres Radio Network as the Padres split this series in St. Louis. By the way, I talked about the Padres being 7-7 in their last 14 games. That also coincides with this 18-game and 18-day stretch. So since this stretch began, they are 7-7. Not that it really matters, just an easy way to think about it as we talked about sort of the rough part of the schedule the Padres are in right now, and we'll see if they can bounce back after a couple of losses in St. Louis. Start of a 3-game series in Tampa Bay tomorrow. We'll have more on that game, more on the pitching matchups in that series coming up in just a little bit. Let's tell you about today's relief pitcher of the game.
Which pitcher was able to come in and slam the door shut? It's time for the relief pitcher of the game in support of the Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank, providing food assistance to local children, families, and seniors in need. To get help or give help, visit SanDiegoFoodBank.org.
Our relief pitcher of the game today will stay on the Padres side of things because we can, and I think the obvious choice today would be Brian Hoeing, who pitched a scoreless 7th inning, 1-2-3 frame, 10 pitches. Really, really nice job. And keep in mind, that point in the game, it's a 3-1 deficit. I mean, the game's not out of reach, especially with how the Padres have a propensity to come back in games late. So for that reason, Hoeing, 1-2-3 inning, did a nice job. He's our relief pitcher of the game. I will say this, though. Yuki Matsui gave up that solo home run to Mason Wynn in the 6th inning to make it 3-1 St. Louis. But had the Padres, and not that losing the game takes away from what Matsui did in the 5th, but had the Padres won this game, I think no doubt we would look at the 5th inning as a really critical moment when Matsui came in. King walks 2 batters, gives up a double. In fact, it was walk, ground roll double, walk to load the bases, 1 out. And at that point, the Padres are down 2-1. Matsui comes in, and he got 2 very quick outs against Nootbaar and Herrera. A fly ball to left and a pop-up to first base, and the inning was over. Stranded, the bases loaded. Had the Padres won this game, I think we're looking at that moment in the 5th inning with Matsui as a really critical moment. Now, had Matsui not given up the home run to win, I'm probably telling you that he's our relief pitcher of the game. Couldn't give it to him because of the home run. But that was a really good job by Matsui in the 5th inning to keep it a 1-run game. Didn't work out. Padres couldn't get more than just the 1 run today, but that was a very, very nice and at the time, very important moment for Yuki Matsui in this game. We mentioned the home run, really the lone bright spot for the Padres in this ball game. Let's tell you about today's player of the game.
Which player had the biggest impact on today's game? Let's find out who is today's player of the game. Presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Catch every game at Paddy's and Pints. Plus, enjoy $4 beer every Thursday. Visit valleyviewcasino.com today.
Jackson Merrill leads off, swings to the first pitch, sends it in the air to deep center field. Scott is back. This one gonna go onto the grass in the batter's eye for Jackson Merrill. 20th of the year for the rookie, and the Padres are on the board. It's 2-1.
Our player of the game, we give it to Jackson Merrill. Provided the lone run of this game for San Diego. Like Jesse said, 20th home run of the season at the time, made it a 2-1 ball game in the 5th inning. And with that home run, Merrill became the 7th Padres rookie to ever have a 20-plus home run season. He's the first to do it since Fernando Tatis Jr. hit 22 in 2019. Hunter Renfroe has the rookie record, 26 home runs in 2017, most by a rookie in Padres history. So Merrill, I don't know, is he going to get to 26? He could. We've seen him go on, home run barrages before. We have. Might get close. You never know, but he's at 20, which is terrific in and of itself. So nice job by Merrill, the home run, and that's why he is today's player of the game. And just to talk about Merrill for a little bit longer here, I think when you and man, we've talked so much about him, and it's all so well deserved, and what he's done and who he's been and the impact he's had on this team in 2024. It is all incredibly well-deserved. You look at his overall numbers right now, as by the way, he continues to close in on the Padres' rookie record for RBIs. So we'll talk more about that in the next couple of days because he's really close to tying Benito Santiago for the most RBIs by a Padres rookie. Right now, the numbers for Merrill, just the basic numbers, 291 average, 20 home runs, 22 doubles, 76 RBIs, and an 818 OPS, all while having less than 50 games at AA under his belt on opening day and playing a brand new position in center field that he's played really, really well. We've said it so many times. He should win Rookie of the Year. He's had just an incredible rookie season, and another aspect to it that has been so impressive has been, and I bring it up because of the home run today, has been the development of power this early in his career. To see him sort of grow into that power this early, right before our very eyes, it has been another element to what has just been such a great year for the rookie. So nice moment for him today. Unfortunately, wasn't enough, but home run number 20 on the season for Jackson Merrill. When we come back, we'll have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. We'll hear our play of the game, wrap things up, get you ready for tomorrow. Again, today's edition of Gwynn and Chris. Chris Ello, Matt Scraby, they are here. They are standing by. They are ready to go, and they will come your way at the very top of the hour. Final score, Cardinals 4, Padres 1 on the Padres Radio Network.
Hey, guys.
Our postgame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. Padres fall 4-1 to the St. Louis Cardinals. On this Thursday, Padres and the Cardinals split this 4-game series. If you want to get a phone call in, you can. 833-288-0973. You have a few minutes here before we get off the air. It's time for me to go on this Thursday as we have Chris Ello, Matt Scraby. They are here. They are ready to rock, and they'll come your way in just a handful of minutes here on 97.3 The Fan as we continue our post-game show here on the Padres Radio Network. We'll hear our play of the game coming up in just a couple of minutes, so stay tuned for that. Let's update you on the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard. Before we do that, let's just update you on where the Padres were entering today. They entered today sitting in the National League's second wild card spot, a game behind Arizona for the top wild card position. They also entered today 4 games behind the Dodgers for first place in the National League West. So here are the scores right now. Let's get to the most important score at the moment. Mets 3, Diamondbacks 2 in Arizona in the 9th inning. So if the Mets hold on and win that game, Padres would not lose any ground behind Arizona today. They would remain a game behind the D-backs for that top wild card spot. Other games going on right now. Marlins ahead of the Rockies 11-8 in the 9th inning, and the A's ahead of the Reds 4-0 in Cincinnati in the 3rd. We do have a number of finals already today. Rangers 2, White Sox 1 in Chicago. Corey Seager hitting his 200th career home run in that game. Brewers 6, Giants 0 in Milwaukee. Earlier today, Angels beat the Tigers 3-0 in Detroit. Games yet to begin. Braves and the Phillies coming up at 3:40. Blue Jays and the Red Sox at Fenway at 4:10. Royals and the Astros in Houston at 5:10. And finally, the Orioles and the Dodgers at 7:10 in L.A. And again, at the moment, the Padres are 4.5 games behind L.A. for first place in the NL West. If the Dodgers were to win, that would go to 5 games. If the Dodgers were to lose today against Baltimore, that would go back to 4 games behind L.A. So that's where things are. It's the time of the year that even when we get off the air and we close up shop here on the station locally every night, you're going to want to pay attention to what's going on, especially right now with the D-backs and the Dodgers. Padres fall 4-1 to the Cardinals on this Thursday. Let's hear today's play of the game.
What was the crucial play that determined who came out on top? This is today's Play of the Game, presented by Bill Howe Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
King is hit in the air deep down the left field line. Profar not going to get there. That's a fair ball. It'll run up against the wall. Arenado comes in to score an unearned run. RBI double, Paul Goldschmidt, and now 2-0 St. Louis.
Our play of the game, we give it to that Paul Goldschmidt RBI double in the 3rd inning to give the Cardinals a 2-0 lead. And trust me, as I always say, it doesn't give me any great pleasure to give our play of the game to a Cardinal today, but felt like that was an impactful swing. Made it a 2-0 game. Padres would make it 2-1, and the Cardinals would go on to win 4-1. So that was a big swing in that 2-run 3rd, and that's our play of the game today. Goldschmidt, like we said, had a great series. 8 hits in this series. Mason Wynn also had 9 hits in this series for Wynn, including the home run today. So, tough series for the Padres. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't want to say tough series. They split. It's not like they lost the series, but when you consider they won the first 2 games, it did feel like you had a really good opportunity to take 3 out of 4 at the very least, and the Padres could not do that the last couple of days, and we'll see what will happen in Tampa Bay. We'll preview that coming up in just a moment. Let's squeeze in a couple of phone calls here before we go, get you involved a little bit. Let's begin things with Arturo calling in. Hi, Arturo. You're on the Padres Radio Network. What's up?
Hey, Sammy, before I forget, I do have to say you did an excellent job, those 2 radio calls, your debut.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Fantastic. I certainly wish you well. There's certainly a future in there.
Well, thank you.
But anyway,
Appreciate
getting
it.
back to the outlook, I guess it's a matter of perspective, right? If we had lost the first 2 and won these 2, I think we're feeling better.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, we're 15, 16 games over 500?
It would be 16 at the end of today.
16 games over 500. I mean, if you were to tell me at the beginning of the year we're going to be right here at 16 games over 500, right, almost near the top, in the playoff hunt, with Fernando, Darvish coming back, and Kim also, whom we could have used today, obviously, as defense. It's looking good to me. It's you don't get too down on the losses, and don't get too high on the wins, and just keep rolling. This is a very good team, and we've had very good experience. What can we say about the kid, right? Jackson Merrill.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here enjoying these games, man.
Yeah, Arturo, good call, and appreciate the kind words. And Arturo, I know you got a message, I think, to me on Instagram. I got to get back to you. So thank you as always for listening, my friend. I appreciate it.
Real, we'll talk.
All right, so that's Arturo calling in. Yeah, look, good call there, and I pretty much agree with what Arturo said there in the big picture. Look, again, once you won the first 2 games of this series, you felt like you had a really good chance to win this series. So not doing that is disappointing on one hand. Look, you zoom out a little bit, bigger picture, right? They're 26-11 since the All-Star break. They are 7-7 in the last 14. They've cooled down, but it was probably unrealistic that they were going to stay at the pace they were at for a while there to begin the second half. If the Mets hold on against the Diamondbacks, and again, the Mets leading 3-2 in Arizona right now in the 9th inning, if the Mets hold on and win that game, look at it this way, just to stay a little realistic about it, even though the last 2 days were not great, they were disappointing, both things can be true. You're going to be a game out behind Arizona, in a position where you would host a wild card series if you got that top spot. Again, 16 games above 500. In the big picture, they're going to have to play better than 500 here down the stretch to go take that number 1 wild card spot. If you have, an idea about going and winning the division, they're going to have to continue to play really, really well. You're going to have to play better than 500. The point is, I'm not going to go crazy after 2 games in St. Louis, and quite frankly, I'm not going to go crazy about it after a 7-7 stretch following what they've done in the second half. To me, all right, you split the series, tough conditions in St. Louis, head on the plane, go to Tampa Bay, try to win the series, keep on moving this thing forward, focus on yourself. I know that sounds really cliche. That's how it feels to me. We'll see what they do tomorrow in Tampa Bay. Let's go to Vince calling in from Chula Vista. Vince, you'll have the final word on the postgame show today. Go ahead.
Hey, Sammy, thank you. Arturo is spot on. There's nothing to worry about here. Splitting in St. Louis, we won the first, or they won the first 2. Had high hopes to take the series, but splitting in St. Louis, 16 over 500, there's nothing to. This is a completely different team under Shildt. The skipper has a completely different philosophy, and so feeling really good about it. But I wanted to do something real quickly, Sammy. I wanted to thank you. My son Ethan was a Pod Squad member, and he moved on to Auburn University. And he reached out to you on Instagram, and you gave him some fantastic advice. He had met you when he was a Pod Squad member, and he's becoming a sports anchor.
Yeah. I remember. I remember this, Vince. This was only a few days ago. Yeah.
it was, and so he's going to be one of their student sports anchors coming in, and you told him, remember, sports is fun. Make sure you have fun and be yourself. And Ethan sent me a text immediately, showed me what you had said. And, Sammy, I love listening to you. You do a great job. But, man, you are a better human being than you are an on-air personality, and you're a pretty terrific on-air personality. So thank you very, very much for allowing Ethan to reach out to you, and he's going to keep you involved in what he gets involved in now. So thank you.
Well, Vince, thank you very much. I appreciate all the kind words, and my pleasure. It's, to me, it's an honor when young broadcasters reach out, want advice, and anything I can provide. So, Vince, I appreciate it very much, and send my best to Ethan. That's great news that he got the sports anchor job. So that's terrific, Vince. Thank you. All right, that's Vince calling in. Nice phone call there from Vince. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I know exactly what Vince is talking about. That happened a few days ago on Instagram, and that's great news. So we'd like to hear that. See a little positive notes to end our post-game show. And hey, if you ever want to reach out to me, any young broadcasters out there, you always can. Find me on social media. Always happy to chat, and I don't have all the answers. There's no blueprint to this business, but I'm always happy to provide any advice and help I can. So big thank you to Vince there. That was a nice phone call. All right, let's take a look ahead to the series in Tampa Bay. Tomorrow, game 1 of a 3-game series between the Padres and the Rays. We do have our pitching matchup tomorrow. For the Rays, right-hander Taj Bradley on the mound. For the Padres, it'll be left-hander Martin Perez. First pitch tomorrow at 3:50 p.m. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show will begin at 2:50. So again, Bradley for the Rays, Perez for the Padres, with our pregame coverage beginning at 2:50. As always, if you missed any of our post-game show, you can go back and listen to all of it on the Inside San Diego Baseball podcast with Sam Levitt, available on the Odyssey app or wherever you find your podcasts. If you would rather go back and watch any portion of our post-game show, you can go and do that on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube channel. Taking a look at the final totals here today for the Cardinals. 4 runs, 10 hits, no errors. They left on 11. For the Padres, 1 run, 3 hits, 2 errors. They left on 4. Sonny Gray, the winning pitcher in this game, he's now 12-9. Michael King, the losing pitcher, he falls to 11-8. And the save goes to Ryan Helsley, his 41st of the season. Time of game today at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, 2 hours and 40 minutes. And the crowd in St. Louis, the smallest attendance number in the history of the ballpark, 26,553 today in St. Louis. Once again, first pitch tomorrow, 3:50 in Tampa Bay. We'll be on the air at 2:50 with our pregame coverage. Until then, for our great studio coordinator, Jeff Hamby, I'm Sam Levitt saying so long from inside our San Diego studios. Again, the final score today, the St. Louis Cardinals 4 and the San Diego Padres 1. Chris Ello, Matt Scraby coming up next on 97.3 The Fan. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Padres Radio Network.